Well, hello, random YouTube people. If you're like me, you like to have fun on your RZR. Which means your machine's probably about due for an oil change. In this video, I'm going to show you how to change the oil in your Polaris RZR. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Now I know what the first thing you're thinking is why is your machine so dirty? And where is the oil dipstick on my machine? It depends on your machine and what year it is. On older machines like my 2011 800 Trail, the dipstick is behind the passenger seat. If you have a bumped seat and harnesses like I do, those will have to be removed in order to remove this panel. With all the seats and harnesses removed, you can see there's these twisty tabs that you can just twist, and then you can take off this entire back panel, which will expose your oil dipstick. Kind of a lot of work to get to that engine oil dipstick, isn't it? On these older machines, the oil filter is underneath the rear wheel well on the passenger side. On newer models like this 2019 4-seater RZR S, the oil dipstick and the oil filter are both in this little compartment that's between the rear seats. I am going to be doing the oil change today on this 4-seater, so let's go ahead and check the current oil levels. Let's go ahead and pop the lock on the dipstick and pull it out, and we can see how good our oil levels are at the moment. The first thing that I'm going to do is grab a paper towel to wipe off this oil so we can stick the dipstick back in to get the current oil levels. This machine has just been sitting for a little bit here. It's not been running, so we should get a good clean level at where the oil is. And now pulling the dipstick back out, and let's check the oil levels. Now right now they're actually looking pretty good, but this is a RZR that I just bought and I don't know how often the owner before me had changed the oil, so I'm going to go ahead and change it anyways. Now that we know where the oil dipstick and the oil filter are on our machine, we need to figure out what kind of oil our machine needs. I'm going to look in my owner's manual to find out what kind of oil my machine takes. You could also find this information online for your machine. On this page in my owner's manual, you can see that my machine requires PS4 5W50 4-cycle oil. The Polaris products page looks to be recommending full synthetic 5W50. And lastly, on the specifications page, you can see the oil capacity, which for this machine is 2.5 quarts. So here's the kit that I purchased for my machine, and I will share a link to this kit in the product description. But you can see this particular kit is a PS4 5W50 that comes with 2 quarts and 1 pint of motor oil, a new oil filter, and a replacement oil drain plug washer. Opening up the box, we'll see the new oil filter, 2 quarts and 1 pint of motor oil, and the replacement drain plug washer. Now that we've checked the oil levels and confirmed that we need an oil change, we're going to go ahead at this point and start the vehicle and let the motor run for a little while to get the oil warmed up so it's easier to drip out of the engine. Next, we're going to let the RZR run for about 5 to 10 minutes, or you can take it on a short drive around the neighborhood and come back, and that should be enough to warm the oil. After you've let it run for about 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. And that should allow the oil to cool a little bit, but still be warm enough to flow freely in the system and avoid you getting burned. During this time, we're going to go get the other components we need for the oil change. Underneath the RZR, there is going to be a hole in the skid plate. And in that hole, you're going to find the oil drain plug. To loosen and remove the oil drain plug, I'm going to use a hex bit socket adapter, which is a 6mm or a 3/8 inch. Next thing I'm going to need is an oil drip pan to collect the oil that drips out of the RZR, and some paper towels. On these newer machines in the trunk area, there will be a panel that we need to open to expose where we need to pour our oil. So here you can see a little cap with an oil icon on it. We're going to open that up. And this is going to let the air flow a little bit while we drain the oil out of the RZR, just to help push the oil out of the system. After waiting all of that time for the oil to cool a little bit, now is finally the time to actually drain the oil. You can see here I have my socket wrench with my socket hex bit adapter, that's a 6mm, and I'm going to put it on the oil drain plug and start to lefty-loosey to loosen that bolt. And as you see, as I pull it away, it'll start to drain. You're going to want to pay attention what happens to the oil drain plug. Mine was connected to the socket wrench, which is nice and handy, but sometimes it might have fallen off into your oil drip pan. You're going to want to find it and wipe it off with some paper towels. Now comes the time where you just basically sit and wait for all of the oil to drain out of your machine. While we wait for the oil to drain, we're going to go back to our kit and get that new oil drain plug washer. Still dripping? Gonna come back later. Once the oil has stopped dripping out, or it's very minimal, go ahead and put the oil drain plug back on the machine. With the hex bit adapter on my socket wrench again, I'm going to righty-tighty, and do not tighten this too much or you will strip the threads on your machine. Now comes the time to swap out the oil filter. This is really tight quarters on my machine. There are some tools that you can get that allow you to hook this to a socket adapter and loosen it, but I was able to just really firmly hold onto this and twist lefty-loosey to take the oil filter off. When you do this, you might see some oil drip down on your machine, but we left the oil drip pan on the floor. Anything that drips down should go down out that hole and be good. Once fully removed, you can go ahead and take this old oil filter and put it upside down in your oil drip pan to let the oil in the filter drip out into the drip pan. Now just going back through with a paper towel to wipe up any oil that has dripped out since removing that oil filter. Off camera, I went ahead and opened up one of the quarts of oil and stuck my finger in there, just so that I can use that oil to rub around the new filter before we put it on. This is going to give it a nice good seal to prevent dust and things from getting inside. Some people recommend putting oil in the actual oil filter before you put it on to help prevent any issues with pressure, but I'm not going to do that because every time I do, I just end up making a huge mess, especially in cases like this when the oil filter is mounted horizontally. Anyways, we're going to spin that until it's hand tight. Now they do make tools that make it easy to spin on these oil filters by attaching them to a socket wrench, but I don't have one that's this filter size. I'm going to try this tool here, but it's really tight quarters, but this has a rubber strap on it that I can cinch down to help provide some leverage as I tighten. But as you can see, I just don't really have enough room for this tool. It's very tight quarters. I was able to give it a few good turns to help tighten this air filter. Sweet! Finally, now comes the time to add the new oil to the machine. Heading back over to the back end of the machine, we still have that oil filter cap open. We're going to use our nice big oil funnel to help get the oil down into the machine. All products shown in this video will be linked in the video description. Alright, now we are going to pour in all 2.5 quarts of oil into our machine. When opening up the jug of oil, make sure that you don't drop the seal inside like I did. Make sure you don't dump that inside your machine. There we go. Ready to pour. That could have been bad. Here we go with quart number 1. Quart number 2. And our last 1 pint of oil. And that is it. Now all we have to do is take the funnel out and put the cap back on. If you check the oil dipstick right now, you probably won't see very much. We need to go ahead and run the vehicle again. While the machine's running, you can go check around the oil filter to see if you see any leaks. And of course, go check underneath the razor as well. See if you see any oil leaking. And if you do, you're gonna need to retighten whatever it is that's leaking. Looks like I'm all good. Now let's go check our oil levels again. Popping the lock on the dipstick. And here we go with this nice new clean oil. You can see that it comes up to the safe mark on the oil dipstick. So you can check this as many times as you need to, but this looks like it's pretty good. Put the dipstick back in, lock it, and you are all done with your oil change, aside from putting things back like the cover plates. So now that you're done with your oil change, what do you do with the oil? I'm going to pour the old used motor oil back into these now empty oil jugs that we just emptied. This will make it much easier to transport to a facility that can recycle this oil. Some local facilities that might be near you are places like AutoZone or O'Reilly's. They can process this used motor oil. Now just putting those jugs of used motor oil back in the box that these new ones came in, just so that I have a place to store them for transport purposes. And I'm going to make sure that I label this used motor oil so that I don't think that it's a new one in the future in case I don't get to an O'Reilly's soon enough. Now you have a RZR, so you might have a trailer that has a wood deck. You can use this used motor oil to pour onto that wood deck to kind of give it a nice sealing protectant surface on it. So just make sure that you use this oil and rub it in really good, and that'll help protect the wood for your RZR trailer. So that might be another example of where you can use this oil instead of taking over to O'Reilly's or AutoZone. And that, random YouTube people, is just how easy it is to change the oil in your Polaris RZR. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you find my content relatable or informative, please give this video some kind of interaction, such as smashing that like button, commenting, and sharing this video with all of your friends. This helps the YouTube algorithms know how to share my content with other random people just like you. And to be sure you don't miss out on future bodacious content, subscribe.
Subscribe.